In order to sort of be comfortable saying no and saying, being spontaneous and thoughtful about that no, I think you need to be comfortable with the person, with the situation that you've put in. You need to have thought it through. And that's where I think, the more you say no, the better you get at saying no.
This is Intentionally Ever After. Join intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek for a series of personal conversations and coaching sessions with various people about how living with intention shows up for them.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Intentionally Ever After. Today, I'm very happy to speak with the great Ajit Gopalakrishnan. Ajit, welcome.
Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me on your show.
Yeah. Ajit, will you kindly introduce yourself, please?
I will. Well, so my name is Ajit. Here's the stuff you'll find about me on the internet. If you look up my LinkedIn profile, is that I have a bachelor's, master's, and a PhD degree in chemical engineering. And that's the stuff you'll find on LinkedIn. That's the industry I work in. I've been working for about 8 years now at an industrial gas company. First, I was in their R&D department, and now I'm in finance. That's the boring stuff. I think the fun stuff that people don't really know about me when they look me up on the internet, for example, is that I like to travel quite a bit. And I've actually been to about 25 countries in the world when I last counted. So that's across 3 continents right now. This is something I enjoy doing that I think defines me a bit as a person, is that I like to travel. I like to expose myself to different languages, cultures, customs, habits, food, experiences. And, that's something I strive to do more of. And that's something that I hope that as I grow older, I will continue to do more of and be defined by that.
Ooh, I like it. Being defined by it. So I'm going to ask my first question that I'll ask you after the introduction question, of course, is how... Nope, I'm going to save that for later, actually, now that I just teased that. Will you define for me for yourself, what does it mean to live intentionally?
So to live, just as the name suggests, to live intentionally is, to me, it's something that where you lead your life and you are true to yourself, you're true to your beliefs, you're true to your value systems, you're true to what you think defines you as a person. Now that might be, these beliefs, these value systems might be something, for some people it might be spiritual, for some people it might be religious, for some people it might be, to live, to be more socially conscious or environmentally conscious. So it's whatever it is that, it makes you, and trying to lead your life by sticking as much as you can to those, value systems and beliefs that really define you and make you the person you are. That doesn't mean you sort of just, live with a dogma. It still means that you are open to growing, open to absorbing influences and, growing as a person, but you're still sort of at the core of you're trying to stay true to those value systems and beliefs. And every moment that you recognize that, you are being true to it, you are living in the moment and you're being intentional about those choices that you make as you go through your day. And to me, when I think about living intentionally, that's really what comes to mind, is just, sticking to your value systems and, making all those choices and decisions that stay true to that.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. So you kind of referenced different ideas, not being overly dogmatic, but, making room, leaving room to grow. How, do value systems change?
I think so. Value systems need to change because, what's acceptable in culture and society is constantly changing around us. If you look back 100, 200 years ago, certain values that were frowned upon back then are mainstream and acceptable now. So still means you are open to adding new values, and quite often it might come in conflict with existing values that you might espouse already. And so then that's where you make those choices and try to keep the good and filter out the bad. So I think it's okay for value systems to change, as long as you recognize that they're changing and you are aware that it's changing within you and it's changing around you, and you make that choice to also change with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense to me. Well, so let's assume it makes sense to absolutely everybody else. You mentioned the idea of awareness, as long as you're aware. So how do you maintain awareness of your value systems and any potential areas of growth for you? How do you stay aware of that?
I think every time, at least for me, every time I recognize that I am, I've made a mistake, or I've gone down a wrong path, or made a bad decision, and then it really helps to have people around you who point that out. So for me, I think my wife is very good at pointing out the mistakes I make, which is good, because that's when I realize that I might be, I might have thought about a certain thing in a certain way. I might have, not been open to what, other people's thoughts or feelings might be on the same thing. So that's really when someone, identifies around you, really helps, that, you made a wrong decision. And that's when you recognize that, okay, you've actually erred a bit, and you sort of make a mental note of that and hope that you don't repeat that same mistake again. So that's really, you're not as much aware when you're making the right decision, because that just feels right. You're just sort of going by your day, you're making all the right choices. But when you do make, not a mistake necessarily, but when you do make a wrong choice sometimes that, doesn't really reflect who you are, identifying those and having people around you who can help you identify those, I think those are some really good moments of your day where you end up being aware of your value system and sort of correcting course based on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you kept talking through that, because it addressed a question I had for you, because you kept referencing mistake, and then you talked about making a wrong choice and having someone else close to you, maybe your wife in this instance, calling out your mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I was going to ask how those mistakes are defined, but then you said something that maybe addresses it. It says it doesn't reflect who you are, right? If you do something or say something out of character, then maybe that is that how you would define a mistake in the sense?
Yes, I think so. It's something that, at the heat of the moment, you have all these choices in mind, or all these conflicts, and you sort of, take a path that doesn't really reflect your character, doesn't put your best foot forward. Those are some things that you want to take back, right? And that in my mind would be a mistake. That, that's a moment where you didn't live intentionally, and you weren't aware of the choice you were making. And so those are some moments where, as you go on, you realize that, and sort of, make a mental note, and hopefully you don't make those same choices again.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask for an example. Do you have an example of a time where an example you're willing to share?
I think it happens. I'm sure it happens quite often, but I think the most sort of common example is, when certain times of the day, like for example, it could be a small thing, like I want to take the dogs out for a walk because I'm just feeling, itchy and I want to go, but my wife's not ready to go. She's like, I thought we discussed this. We're supposed to be going at, 8 p.m. or whatever. And then, so those are some things where that, right? Other people that my wife has other things to do in the day, and that's when she's ready to go, and we've discussed it, but still you end up being out of character and saying let's go because just you feel going. So that's a small example, but I'm sure there are
sure but I think that's a great example, because I think that's a very relatable example, and maybe that's one that's it's not a clear-cut black or white, because you said you're feeling like you're itching to get out. You don't typically go up like, maybe I need to, and then all your wife needs to do is make the noise like, yeah. And then it just kind of recalibrates you instantaneously. Yeah, I think it's very relatable. So it sounds like you have a habit of dog walking, which I think all dog owners and even non-dog owners can relate to. Do you have a habit or a change in habit that has had an exponential payoff?
I do, and that I think relates back to the dog walking topic. Is it's so we actually got a puppy 6 months ago, and you know how puppies are. They need to go out all the time. They wake up in the middle of the night and need to be let out. So what's and so much of my day has sort of just been anchored around his routines and his schedule right now, that I've been waking up much earlier than I used to. Like on a normal day, I used to be up at 7:30 a.m. and now I'm up at like 5:30 or 6 a.m. in the morning. And actually I enjoy it. Like I've always wanted to wake up early. I've always been a morning person, not an evening person. But still, like with the winter, it's dark outside. I don't feel like waking up. But just because he's up every morning and needs to go out, I've just been waking up so early, and that sort of feel like it's given me more time back in my day to live intentionally. Like I feel I'm at my best in the morning. Like that's where I'm making the right decisions and living with purpose in the morning, and the evening is sort of just going with the flow. And so just that waking up early has had a huge payoff, because I've been wanting to also train for a triathlon, and I tried that last summer, but it just couldn't really fit it into my day. Like I couldn't go for a swim. Like by the evening, I was so tired. Right now, I wake up at 6 in the morning. I go for a swim, about 2-3 days a week in the morning, and that really sort of just starts my day out on the right note. And so I think just that habit of waking up early, which I even do it on weekends. Right? It's not like I'm doing it because he wants to wake up. Right now, even I'm doing it out of choice, and that's a habit that I think has paid off, just in terms of me being able to invest more time in my day training for this triathlon. And so, and I can see that in the results as well. And so that's really a habit that I'm hoping that becomes more of a routine going forward.
Yeah. You can see it in the results of what?
In how I've, in my fitness levels, for example, like that I can actually swim, bike and run and, complete a triathlon, which I possibly couldn't have done last year. So just having, the puppy around and him waking me up has just sort of, led to this cascading effect where I've picked up a good habit out of it, which is to wake up early.
Yeah. And towards the end, you mentioned you hope to carry it on once the puppy is no longer a puppy and after this very specific triathlon that you're training for.
Exactly. So we'll see how it goes, but hopefully it's something I can keep.
Yeah. What have you said no to that has made a significant impact in your life?
So this is something that I am really bad at and I struggle to do. So I don't think I wish I would say no more often, but that's something I'm really bad at. I have to admit that I am.
Just generally saying no, you mean?
Yeah, just in generally saying no. I feel I succumb to peer pressure of friends, family. Anytime somebody wants something, I'm very hesitant to say no. Or I always feel that I'm sort of obliged to do something because someone asked me, and just being able to say no, I'm sure would make a huge difference. It would make me, even sometimes if it comes into conflict with my value systems, I might still end up struggling to say no. If it's a really close friend or family, I might just struggle to say no, and that's something that goes against sort of living intentionally, if you will. So that's something I have a lot of work to do.
All right, so let's. I'm looking for any experience then, because now I'm realizing that you don't want to be on this podcast at all. You couldn't say no to me. So knowing that,
no, hardly. No, I think you got that wrong.
Okay.
I obviously wanted to be on the podcast because I enjoy. Yeah, it helps me reflect on my own. So I took it as an opportunity for me to reflect on leading my life, and you've spoken so much about it. You're a friend. It defines the work you do. It's your career. It's something you enjoy doing. So this was an opportunity for me to learn what it must be like to be in your shoes for a day, right? And so no, that's not an example. I think where it really comes into conflict is with family, extended family. Where I feel more obliged to say yes. With you, I can say no. We rescheduled this multiple times, so, which means I'm comfortable saying no. And that's a good sign. Like when you're comfortable saying no to someone, that means you have a positive relationship with them. And sometimes I don't with some people because it's just a lot. It's the path of least resistance sometimes to just say yes and do what's expected or do what's expected in the moment by someone else rather than have that difficult conversation around that no. So that's really where I need to live more intentionally, is trying to say no's more often.
Yeah, well, you bring up, these are very interesting points, and I love how you turned my joke into making me feel really good. So continue to do that throughout this conversation, please. Path of least resistance. Sometimes it feels easier to say the no and deal with whatever you have to do to accommodate. And then the idea of being comfortable saying no. Do you feel like in your ongoing work to be better about saying no, do you feel like you need to be comfortable in order to say no? Is it that you're trying to get comfortable to say the no, or that you say the no in order to be comfortable? How does that relate for you?
I think, at least for me, sometimes, say it's easy. Well, it's easy to, the no has to come from a right place, right? The no can't come from a place of, it can't be an impulsive, no, I don't want to do that, right? Then it's not coming from the right place. If it's a no, this is not the right thing to do because so and so, where you've thought it out, it's spontaneous, it's rationalized, that's where the no needs to come from, where you've thought through that conflict of interest in your mind. It's a spontaneous sort of no, because and then comes along with an explanation. But sometimes it's just a rash, impulsive no, I don't want to do that because from my shoes, this is where it, I see it. That's often not a good no. And in order to sort of be comfortable saying no and saying, being spontaneous and thoughtful about that no, I think you need to be comfortable with the person, with the situation that you've put in. You need to have thought it through. And that's where I think, the more you say no, the better you get at saying no.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's
and if you never start saying no, you're never going to get good at it. So.
Right. Yeah. And so it has me wondering about, if using a bit of your definition here, if there's a person that you're not comfortable with or you don't have a comfortable relationship with, are you always inclined to say yes?
Quite often, yes, because it's the path of least resistance. Is often the inconvenience caused by the yes is lesser than the inconvenience caused by the no sometimes.
But when is it not?
There might be situations where it's not, I agree. But even then, I think to say the no from a right place is difficult. It only comes with practice. So I'm sure there will be situations where, the no is, the yes is just greatly inconveniencing. And you would know it, but still you should, I think that, or at least I'm the kind of person, if kind of person I am, is that I'm always very democratic. I don't like, I like to take people's opinions. I'm, try to stay friendly with everyone, not pick anyone off, not very rash or impulsive. I'm always sort of, I always like to take the middle ground.
Yes.
So being that kind of person, it makes it difficult to push back and say no.
Sure. Yeah, making it a challenge. But it sounds like it's worth exploring, because at some point it doesn't benefit you to say yes all the time.
No, it doesn't. So yeah, that's an area of my life that I recognize that I need to work on.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for going down that path with me. I appreciate that.
Hopefully it was not too abstract.
Oh no, I don't think it. I think it is so relatable. Who knows? Maybe it was really abstract. I was tracking, but I believe it's very, very relatable, right? I think it's the idea of comfort and the idea of pushback, and something you didn't specifically call out, but maybe the nature of the relationship, the role, like if there's a person who historically you've never said no, or maybe you've even been told not to say no to this person, does that mean you can never say no to this person?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And how do you work to do that? Maybe in an instance where you have a history of saying yes. Like, how do you start to change that tune? And as well as, how many minor inconvenient yeses does it take for you to start to, introduce the no,
Mm-hmm.
right? Without it being so extreme and obvious that this is a no. Where's that middle ground where it's like,
Exactly.
I think no is the answer here, and not for any strong reason, but it's still a no, and maybe defining that space, defining that filter, I think for a lot of people, not just you, but I think for a lot of people would be a great benefit. That way we, all of us can spend our energy doing the things that, yes, we would actually rather do, or that we actually do prioritize, rather than, well, I have, half a unit of energy. I guess I could do this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's great benefit in learning this lesson, and many of us, it takes us a while to learn it, if at all.
For sure.
So let's stop focusing on these areas of growth that I keep poking here. What area in your life feels just about perfect?
I think it's kind of unfortunate to say, but through the whole pandemic, because so many of us who were traveling to the office have started working from home, I feel like I have a much, much better work-life balance than I have ever had, in terms of, giving time back in my day that I would have spent commuting otherwise. I can take the short breaks, I can walk the dogs, I can just walk around. It's just the whole work-life balance right now it's unfortunate that it had to come during a pandemic, but it's helped a lot of people identify that work-life balance that they have strived for. And so I feel that feels perfect right now, and I don't think it's ever going to be like this again, unfortunately. As many of us return back to the office, but that feels perfect right now. Just having time for work, time for family, time for the dogs, time for myself. It just feels like I have so much more time in my day to spend more wisely. So that feels perfect right now, I would say.
Yeah. Do you feel like as you move back to the physical office, there are ways to insist upon that balance?
I think so. A lot of people, are striving to retain some element of this work from home aspect. But employers always, they want to make sure that their employees are engaged and seeing each other and, being creative. And that sometimes requires, face-to-face interactions with people. So
Certainly.
There's going to be some element of it. Again, we're not going to completely lose this work-life balance, but it's not going to be what it is right now either. So
right.
Probably some happy middle ground hopefully will be found.
Right. Or balance, some might say.
Yeah, happy balance.
Yeah. And perhaps if nothing else, hopefully a little more, but if nothing else, there's this perspective now, people such as yourself who have discovered this balance during this unfortunate time, maybe seeing what this does for you, in that perspective of, oh, this is a really nice feeling. Maybe I want some more of this. Maybe I want to maintain visibility on this feeling. So as we go back, I can, not always, many people refer to getting back to normal, right? And just shifting back to the way things were. But maybe with this new perspective of, oh, things right now, work-life balance is pretty perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that shifts things a little bit rather than just going right back to the way things were.
Yep.
Who is someone you admire, and what do you admire about them?
This one's an easy question, I have to say. It has to be my wife.
All right, good points there.
She doesn't know I'm doing this, by the way, so it's not like she made me say it. But,
perfect.
No, for sure. She's someone who's, I think she's, again, made me realize a lot more about myself that I didn't really know. She's made me realize what my value systems are and where it needs correction by, identifying the areas or identifying the situations where I've made, been out of character. And, that's really helped me grow as a person. It's helped me make more friends, make time for other people, not just me. And just overall, that's helped me kind of grow into a better person. And that's really what I admire about her is that she's really good at all these. She's really good at knowing who she is as a person, what her value systems are, and staying true to it. And so that's, just having her as a role model around me has really helped me grow as a person. And so, that's really what I admire about her is just being so self-aware, which I really wasn't until I met her, I would say. So that's, and now, we're at a point where as a couple, we're also being aware of each other and, growing together and, finding our sort of center of gravity together. So that, that's something I would say, that I would not have expected. And that's something that I'm, thankful for, I would say.
Yeah, I like that idea, the center of gravity together. So could you give us a little peek behind the curtain about kind of what that is like, especially since maybe you didn't expect it? It sounds like you each had your own, and you're kind of defining and creating what your shared value system is. Is that what the idea is?
Yeah, exactly. And when you kind of meet a person, you don't know what the two of you together would be like. I mean, you kind of like something in them, and usually that's something in the first few days, weeks, months, it's it's really hard to it's something, might be something small, and then that it sort of just grows. And so when I say don't expect it, is like you don't anticipate what you're going to be like as a couple 10 years down the road. And I think that's really what's happened between us is sort of as we've made all of these choices together, we found that we're really quick at making big decisions. Anytime we decided, okay, we're going to buy a house, and 2 days later we bought a house, and 2 days before that we still thought we were going to find an apartment to rent or something, and now we own a house with a backyard. We decided we're going to get our first dog, and we had our first dog pretty soon. And the same thing with our second dog. We had no intention of getting a second dog, and the next day we spoke about it. We're like, should we get it? And the day after, we have a dog at home. So that those are some of the big decisions in our life that we found that we're more or less always on the same page on. The small decisions, like what are we having for dinner? Oh, those are really frustrating. But all the big ones that I feel like we're really good at making them pretty quickly. And so that's made things so much nicer.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like not only making the decisions quickly, but acting on them quickly as well. Sounds like a trait.
Yeah, I would give her credit for all of that. We moved into the house, and the next day it was completely set up.
Yeah.
She's she wants to get things done. She doesn't like, she wants to get 100% done right away. I get 90% done right away, and the remaining 10% probably takes me another, weeks or months to complete. So,
right.
And so that's something she's good at that I also need to learn a bit more.
That's great. Do you factor that in when you're having bigger conversations with her? Do you know that she's likely to act on something quick? And so do you factor that into your discussions?
I'm sure I do.
Did I just call you out? I'm sorry.
Put
I
off
shouldn't
some
have done that.
No, that's fine. No, I'm sure I put off certain conversations because I know once the decision is made, the action will be taken
shortly
soon.
thereafter.
So
maybe
put off some of those decisions.
Maybe you could use that to your benefit, though. Knowing that, you could use it to your benefit as well.
How so?
Oh, I don't know. I think we'd have to go for a specific example.
Okay.
Let's say there's something that that you've wanted to do, and perhaps she might not, have any strong feelings against it. So you bring it up with her, and then you make her part of the conversation. It happens. The decision happens.
Yeah.
Then likely it would get done.
Okay.
Maybe you know yourself enough to know that you're someone who gets 90% done right away and drags it out.
Yeah.
And if it's something you truly want, then all it's going to require is a conversation with your wife, and boom.
Yeah.
Maybe. If that formula holds.
I don't think I'm good at, how do you say, feels or No, I think that's a skill that requires honing.
Yes, there's another one. We're giving you homework here,
Okay.
Ajit. Things to practice.
For sure.
What do you imagine some people admire about you?
I would say, people are often not surprised, but they realize that or when they know me and they see how calm and level-headed a person I am right now. I think that's something I would think that people admire about me. I don't know. I know that certainly my wife admires that about me. Most of the time is that I can, I stay calm. I don't, my highs are just about slightly above the middle, and my lows are slightly below the middle. So most of my life ends up just, kind of staying in the middle ground.
Yeah.
And, that's something that well, at least I recognize that I am that way, and I try to stay that way. I don't get angry easily. I don't. At the same time, I don't get overjoyed or ecstatic that easily either. So that can be frustrating for some people sometimes. But the fact that I can usually try to stay level-headed and calm. That's something I think I admire about myself. Say if I had to say that.
I think that's I think that's great
I
to
feel
know
like
that you admire it in yourself. It's someone who you strive to be. And, certainly from my perspective, you seem to be. I tend to be someone who tries to get people to feel those extreme, highs, or just to break them out of whatever, trance they may be in. Maybe that's not the right word, but I think you're very skilled at it. I think you're very good at it, and I can see some great benefit in many situations where being able to manage your emotions is a strength for sure. So I admire that. I admire that from afar.
Okay, that's good to know.
What other thoughts do you have, either in the name of intentionality or otherwise, that you'd like to share?
You mean just for what?
Anything.
I don't know. I'm blanking out on that.
Yeah, that's okay.
I feel like I've said most of the things that I had in mind.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I have anything more to add.
No,
that would,
that's great. No, you don't have to necessarily, but
Okay.
but I guess that was
Okay.
that was the part of my question as well. Is there anything that you had thought about in advance, and maybe I didn't ask something in a way that elicited the topic, something that may even feel unrelated or?
Well, I think since this is sort of a platform for your listeners, I think it's important maybe talk about how we met. And I don't know if most of your listeners know that I do live a few houses down the road from you. And in fact, how we actually met is, we're walking by, we are walking our dogs, and, you were out playing basketball with your son, Joey, who's probably, 7, 8 years old at the moment. And immediately I was struck by how you both were, wasn't as much a dad-son relationship as sort of a, kind of two friends. And, you guys were just sort of hanging out, shooting a ball, shooting the air, and just, chatting like a couple of adults. And that really struck me as something that, you don't see that in a lot of parents. I feel like there's a sort of a traditional dad-son relationship, and it didn't seem like you guys had that. I'm sure you do at home, but at least at that moment, it seemed more like, you two adults having a conversation, playing basketball. And that's something that sort of made me want to stop and chat with you, introduce myself, and find out what you do. And when you said that you have this podcast and that you're a life coach, I was intrigued, I would say, and kind of wanted to know more about you. And so that's how we sort of, got chatting. And so and when I found out that, you're also into running, you do marathons, ultra marathons, and ultra marathons and whatnot, that's something that I've always wanted to have people around me that would, are really into sports and being physically active. And so, that also inspired me to sort of, continue my running and biking and, doing a triathlon and all of that. So that's a positive influence in my life, I would say.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I do remember that day very well.
You did? What do you remember from it?
Well, I remember that you were walking your one dog at the time, because you only had
Yeah.
At that point. And I thought that was really nice that you had actually stopped to introduce yourself. It's not specific to this area, but people, when new people come in, it's not always the impulse to come over and welcome them necessarily into your existing space. People are very comfortable with what they have and maybe kind of look from afar, looking over the fence or through their window and, what are they doing now? What are they doing now? And you were, one of the first folks to engage with us. It was very nice. And I'll also say that shifted dramatically once we got our own puppy. Then everyone came out of the woodwork, right? But this actually happened before, maybe a solid year, a year and a half or so before we got our puppy. So no, that was a really nice interaction. I remember it very well. And I always try to remember names, and I feel like I remembered your name for the next time.
Okay.
But this has been great because obviously we've started doing some runs together and playing tennis together. So I'm really glad that you stopped by and noticed us shooting some hoops out there the one day. It's been great, and now we've just added to our little community here. We've been added to the little community that existed already. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. And now I appreciate full circle you coming in and being part of my professional world, so to speak.
Hopefully it was not what you expected, but hopefully it was, I don't know if it met your expectations of how this conversation would go. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was perfect. It was good. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I genuinely appreciate your time. And, when I do have conversations, it's not like I leave this part of my life out of things, obviously, right? I try to have very much of an integration when I have my work and personal life. So it's not that you're unfamiliar with the way that I talk or the questions that I ask, but it means a lot that you joined me on this today, and I really appreciate you taking the time and the thoughtful consideration of all the questions. So thank you again.
Yeah, and thank you for I think your questions also gave me a chance to sort of pause, reflect, and that's always good to do. Good to do.
Excellent. All right, my friend, I will see you likely later today as we take the dogs for a walk.
That is true.
Thanks so much, Ajit.
Signing off. Thanks, Joe.
This has been Intentionally Ever After, hosted by intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek. If you would like to have your own intentional conversation with Joe on or off the air, visit intentionallyeverafter.com. Thanks for listening.